Hello there, my name is April Lynch and I work for Virginia Commonwealth University Rehabilitation Research and Training Center. Welcome to today, where we will be discussing how to be an influencer in your company for hiring individuals with disabilities, part 2. If you joined in for the first webcast about influencing in your company to hire individuals with disabilities, part 1, we went over the differences between establishing a mission, vision, and the overall values within your company. So let's take a closer look at how we can continue with working through the development of that to reach the spirit of the company. So in counseling, there's a technique called motivational interviewing, which is working towards promoting positive change for the client. And this is established through a therapeutic relationship, which is the spirit of MI, or the spirit of counseling. So how can we kind of take this thought process and shape the overall spirit of the company? By promoting this idea of positive change through incorporating your mission, vision, and values. So since you've seen the first webcast, if you've been actively working to continue maintaining the mission and the vision and the values within your company, you're now working towards how you can continue this collaboration and trust with your employees and leadership within your company. Once you've been able to identify that mission, vision, and values, you have a better idea of the direction that your company is going in with hiring individuals with disabilities, as well as maintaining the retention of the employment of individuals with disabilities. The ideas that are working within the company and the mission, vision, and values that are being maintained and promoting the overall best practices within your company should be fostered through employee autonomy and choice. The more buy-in and understanding you can get from your employees through that autonomy and their choice, the more independence you can see reached within your company and collaboration and trust for hiring individuals with disabilities. With the overall goal of working towards that positive system change to promote inclusion and diversity within your company. So how can you, again, take the spirit of the company through the ideas of collaboration, which fosters that partnership with your employees and leadership, and that overall acceptance and trust of the ideas and what the employees truly want within the company. This can foster the overall compassion and the tone and climate within your work culture that can then continue to influence best practices for hiring individuals with disabilities and really promoting that overall vision for your company. So what are some ways that you can promote the spirit of the company and identify where diversity and inclusion is already occurring or where those changes can be maintained and developed? So an idea that you might want to try in your company, if you aren't already developing one or have one in place, is a diversity and inclusion committee. You also might hear different titles like cultural committee, multiculturalism committees, inclusion committees. How can we foster the differences and celebrate those differences within your company? So through the diversity and inclusion committee, you have committee members that are exhibiting passion towards hiring individuals with disabilities and maintaining that retention in the company. This also helps with existing best practices for how to help with self-disclosure in the workplace and promoting that overall job satisfaction. And again, that collaboration and trust with your employees. So who should make up this committee? What members are in place? So not only should passion be present and a voluntary placement for this type of position, but then also fostering multiculturalism. And how can we have celebration of differences within this committee as well? So there can be a wide range of not only skill set, but also perspective. Because if we can have as many open perspectives as possible in a room, developing the diversity and inclusion practices within a company, then we can better have an identified range of varying perspectives that can represent the entire company. So this diversity and inclusion committee, when they're meeting together, how can they be identifying what is going well, where there might be room for improvement? So as far as what might be going well, maybe you've already hired some individuals with disabilities, or you already have a self-disclosure practice in place through your onboarding. And this is allowing that opportunity for individuals with disabilities to disclose and feel supported within the workplace. So this might be going well, which is then leading to boosted morale within your company and is allowing your employees to recognize that individuals with disabilities are being hired and supported in the workplace. So how can you continue to build on this and improve what's already going well? So it might be as easy as having an employee survey go out to gauge what their thoughts are on what has been going well with diversity and inclusion in the workplace. This could also lead to some more open-ended questions where you could allow for different employees in the company to voice concerns or their appreciation for what practices they are noticing that are going well. And then through those employee engagement surveys, which we'll talk a little bit more about later as well, but how can we measure the progress by taking data on what comes from these surveys? So maybe having an individual on that committee, that's their particular role. They observe and analyze the data that comes back from measuring the progress within the diversity and inclusion goals. So not only are we implementing goals for progress and positive change within the company, but how can we continue to maintain and develop these goals and make some changes and modifications where need be. So other ways that you can continue fostering your diversity and inclusion committee to influence the hiring and retention of individuals with disabilities is, again, by that idea of surveying your employees and really getting an understanding of what they think is going well and where there can be some room for improvement. So I was just touching on using different types of surveys or questionnaires to gain insight on what your employees are thinking and what their perspective is about the overall client, the overall climate and work culture within the company. And some ways that your committee may put these surveys out is by using scaling. This is another form of motivational interviewing, and this can be used within your company as well to gauge employee satisfaction, as well as take in some more open-ended questions by the use of evocative questions that will help your employees provide their answers without being prompted by specific scaling rulers like 1 through 10. How are you feeling? Or 1 through 10, what could be improved in the workplace? So again, kind of looking at those forms of surveys and questionnaires where you can gauge and gain insight on employee understanding and wishes. And you can use those overall scaling rulers and evocative questions to get some results within your company and to promote what the employees are hoping to see within the workplace. So also within this diversity and inclusion committee, once having these surveys and questionnaires or whatever approach you may decide is best for your company to gain insight, how can you take that information and begin to recognize what are the strengths of your team? What are the strengths of your company? So is the information that's being provided in these surveys giving you an understanding of where the strengths are in your company? And this can lead to the identification of best practices that are already occurring in your company for hiring individuals with disabilities, as well as where you can make some improvements. And we'll talk about ways that you can do that here shortly. And really a takeaway from piecing together your diversity inclusion committee and helping this increase the overall influence and impact in the company for diversity. We really want this to reflect all levels of organization and structure. So this may mean the different individuals that are making up this committee. So again, like I stated earlier, it would be really awesome to have a group of individuals with varying backgrounds. If we can represent multiculturalism as much as possible on this committee, this again allows for differing perspectives and how we can celebrate those differences within our company. And so basically, when we're thinking of the different people that are going to make up this committee, we want to go all the way to the top of leadership and then also fill in all the other roles within a company that might bring some contribution to this committee based on their position. So it may be starting with your human resources department and having these individuals that already have some background working with psychology, working with the mind, and how it can be very important to promote the strengths of individuals based on what they're motivated by. And how can we represent that through having some human resources individuals who are there to foster the needs of the employees and also support them. So maybe having some HR individuals, like I said, some of the leadership. So we're talking CEO or CFO or whoever may be a good representation for that business liaison to talk with this committee and foster not only the business sides of the company to make it a win-win balance of purpose and profit, but then also able to gain some insight on where diversity and inclusion can be increased and where that can be monitored across all business practices. So how can we incorporate HR professionals, leadership, hiring managers, and even different individuals within the company who may provide some volunteership out in the community to individuals with disabilities. So their perspective may be extremely helpful. Or I've even recognized in some companies where parents with children or adults with disabilities who are really wanting to represent their experience of not only raising an individual with a disability, but fostering their strengths to fulfill their purpose. And so sometimes having those individuals gains another beneficial perspective on that type of committee. So when creating this diversity and inclusion committee, how can you really be taking in the interest of the employees and the insight of the employees, but also, again, reflecting all the way from the bottom of that organization structure all the way to the top. So when employees feel comfortable self-disclosing a disability, this can serve as an informal indicator of the employer's success in achieving a supportive workplace culture. Also, seeing that their colleagues with disabilities are fairly treated can further build employee loyalty and commitment toward the organization. So overall, taking a closer look at this VCU research that has been conducted with other companies with best practices for hiring individuals with disabilities. It has been shown to boost the morale of current employees and also foster that collaboration and trust because they see where their employer is supportive and also fostering that diversity and inclusion through best practices. So how can we celebrate diversity in the workplace? This can be a great way to get started with making connections within your company to see where diversity can be increased or where things are going well. So this may be some of the different agenda items at the diversity and inclusion committee meetings. Really, it depends on your preference, how often you want your committee to be meeting, but you could think about maybe on a monthly basis or a bi-monthly basis and allowing these meetings to really have an agenda that encompasses what is the current progress within our company with our goals towards hiring individuals with disabilities, but where can we take this further? So not only are we, walking the walk, or I'm sorry, not only are we talking the talk, but we're walking the walk by providing different educational opportunities about diversity and inclusion, and also fostering multiculturalism through having a multicultural calendar. So how can you maybe in those different surveys or questionnaires that you're providing to employees, gain a little bit more insight about the employees you have and what holidays they're celebrating that may not be on what we think is the traditional calendar. So maybe also incorporating a multicultural calendar within the workplace, or if that's too difficult to make that change right away, again, just gauging employee understanding and insight through sending out a questionnaire or survey. And this can also help you with making those connections back to where some educational opportunities can be provided. So in your professional development or professional learning system, what educational opportunities already occur that promote the understanding of not only hiring individuals with disabilities, but working with individuals with disabilities or being an individual with a disability in the workplace. And what different supports might be needed, or how can you continue to increase your education as an employee or a leader to continue to promote that impact within the company and increase retention in this area. So again, celebrating that diversity in the workplace allows that collaboration and trust to continue to be built amongst the employees and the leadership. But this also can lead to some increased interpersonal understanding. So sometimes when we meet others that are different from us, we may not know how to necessarily engage with that individual. It could often lead to some avoidance as well if this is something that may make someone feel slightly uncomfortable. So sometimes novelty can be difficult to adapt to initially, but how can we kind of take that element of novelty out of place and implement diversity and allow for the differences of others to be fostered, which then promotes connection and collaboration in the workplace. This can lead to, again, that boost in morale, but then also more positive interpersonal interactions occurring in the workplace. Think about it. What do you enjoy about coming to work? It can often be that connection and socialization with other people. And if we have an idea that others are different within the workplace, but we can learn from those differences, and that actually can balance all of our strengths and barriers, and this can ultimately lead to really great teamwork. And again, that boosted morale. So celebrating diversity in the workplace can be approached in multiple ways. You want to talk about what is most comfortable for your company, and again, what is most realistic, but also how can you just take an overall approach of improving the employee engagement through celebrating the differences within your workplace. So how can you make these items that we've discussed so far happen within your company? You may be thinking, okay, well, I have a diversity and inclusion committee, or I have a cultural committee that we are beginning to explore and celebrate the differences within our company, but we may need a little bit of extra help. So you may be thinking as an employer or an employee that's wanting to help shape your workplace, how can we take next steps to connect with someone in our community to get a little bit of extra support? So thoughts in this area lead to partnership with employment services organizations. So an ESO, or an employment services organization, is ultimately a community rehabilitation agency that you can connect with that is providing employment services to individuals with disabilities and mental health conditions. And these are really the subject matter experts on how to come into your business and conduct a business and job analysis. What elements are, again, going well in your company, and where can there be room for improvement? This may even open up some awareness of, where accessibility can be shaped within your company. Again, how can you foster those best practices of hiring individuals with disabilities, but then also the retention? And that can be promoted by developed accessibility, understanding of compensatory supports, and working with community agencies like the Rehabilitation Research and Training Center, Business Connections, to connect with employment specialists and vocational counselors on how to not only educate your employees and your leaders on how to promote the hiring and retention of individuals within your company, but then what are those best practices to continue maintaining that, to make it a win-win experience, to balance that purpose and profit for everyone involved. So connecting with Business Connections would allow us to come in and, again, do that business and job analysis. We can start to identify where your recruitment needs are, what are the strengths of certain positions, where people might hit a barrier when working in this type of position. So where can we recruit prospective candidates that would be a positive job match and also promote long-term employment within your company to decrease absenteeism and high turnover rates. And then those educational opportunities that we talked about earlier that may be a measure of progress within your diversity and inclusion goals. How can you incorporate Business Connections to come in and provide some of that disability awareness and mental health training, and also get some additional information on tax incentive credits, as well as disability etiquette and the Americans with Disabilities Act, and how to overcome potential ADA issues coming up. So again, how can you connect with an employment organization to explore those values, mission, and the overall beliefs that are occurring within your company, and how can we help provide those results for you? And then also, a lot of the time with diversity and inclusion committees, a goal is to foster not only the community side of it, but the business side, right? So how can you find a balance between community relations and connecting with other agencies to explore research that is promoting those best practices? So again, partnering with that employment organization that's already providing those employment services to individuals with disabilities will allow you to explore what the needs are of your company and how the partnership can foster that overall spirit of the company promoting diversity and inclusion. So just remember, the power lies in the company, which then means that change rests within the employees. So the more insight you can gain about your employees and the approaches that are already working or need some improvement in your company will allow you to foster the positive change. So leaders that are wanting to be determined and make change within their company can find ways to promote that diversity and inclusion committee, but then also how can they connect with their employees to learn about what's happening in the workplace currently and where those changes can be made. When you connect with your employees, this can then empower them to take that action and to really explore different action items and responsibilities that they can make within their departments or with the employees they're already connecting with. So also this might be that one of your employees has become a natural support for an individual with disability in the company. So a natural support is when a coworker or a colleague helps an individual with a disability in those naturally occurring times where some support is needed. So, we all need a little bit of support throughout the day, whether that's, emailing your boss really quick to clarify an instruction you received, or, following up on some instructions you received on a project, and, you think that you could take it in a different approach. So how can you connect with your employees, again, to really understand what practices are already working within the company, but how you can empower them to take action and responsibility? And then overall committing back to that compassion within the spirit of your company. So the more you commit to your employees and the more you commit to a compassionate change, the more you can foster the hiring of individuals with disabilities and the retention of long-term employment within your company. If you want to understand and respect your employees, then your company in turn can grow through a collaborative process that will then promote diversity and inclusion. Please take a look at our resources and funding and access our website for any additional information you would like to view. And that is the end of our presentation today. Thank you so much for joining us for part 2 of being an influencer within your company for hiring individuals with disabilities. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.